Hello, dear class. A short word about Christopher Fry, that entrancing English poet of the post-war era in Britain, who introduced himself to the audiences of Britain and of America with a play about the problem of living with the horror that we, the British, the Americans, and so many others on the face of the globe had been living through, the Second World War. So, as all playwrights, I guess, should, he took this subject head on, and he wrote about a man returning from the wars in Flanders, says Thomas Mendip, this man. Flanders, having been the site of so many wars, as an archetypal site of war, it was a perfect example to take. And Thomas Mendip comes back from the wars unable to shake off the horror that he felt at being human. That was for him the hardest thing to deal with, and he saw himself, as his character says in the play, as guilty of mankind, of being human. And this intermittently comes to haunt our lives and our dreams and our inmost spirit and fears. And there's no date or time at which we can easily cast this off. No date or time is better than any other at confessing our horror at the sight of man and what he does. But the Second World War was as good a place as any to pause and ask ourselves what right we had to take any pride in being human. Of course, the reasons to take pride in being human are incessant and recreated every day, thank goodness, or thank hell, because it means we can never quite despair of man while he can be responsible for such beauty as he is every day, as he and she and they and humans of every pronoun create every day. So the problem, nonetheless, was looking at the negative side of the balance, and of recovering from that, not just sitting down and thinking about how much mankind is worthy of the wages of existence, but experiencing, coming through and managing to go on living something that soldiers from all wars have found immensely difficult, and something that people who have endured a terrible tragedy, the loss of someone close, and their dreadful suffering, also will have a hard time standing up and moving forwards after. So Fry brought us this wonderful play, The Lady's Not for Burning, in which he crisscrosses a pair of reluctant lovers who stand on the edge, as it were, of the scaffold at the beginning of the play. Thomas Mendip has returned from war and has not succeeded in his journey from one pub to another, away from the south coast of England, away from the Channel and from Flanders. He's not succeeded in persuading himself that life is actually worth living. So he arrives at the next little town, and he asks to see the mayor so that the mayor may agree that he, Thomas, should be hanged forthwith. And on this very same day, a lady called Janet Jourdemain is the victim of course, completely unfounded accusation of being a witch. And what she's actually guilty of is owning a property that the mayor would like to steal from her. But there's enough evidence of her talking to her poodle and her peacock and other familiars that there is, notionally at least, a reason to burn her. And she wants to live as keenly as Thomas wants to die. And when they see each other in the course of the first act, we see that they have perceived a reason to want to go on living, in Thomas's case, and in Janet's case, a reason to challenge the rationalism of her scientist father, who was an alchemist. And if she can find it in her heart to challenge that, her heritage, and if Thomas can find it in his heart to plant love, then we have a comedy, and we have a happy ending, which in the case of this play we wonderfully do. But the play, one of the play's great claims to fame is not the sweetness of the comedy, which is sweet indeed, or the relevance of the despair that the comedy has to overcome, its relevance to us now and at all times, now and forever, but the form in which Fry is able to cast it by virtue of being not only a delicious poet, but of being able to write verse that, and this is the play's great magic, verse so enormously speakable that you could almost think it is not verse, and yet not quite. And the intricacy of the language is such, the care with which you have to speak it, to convey it to an audience, is such that you know you're in the hands of a tradition more ancient than prose drama. So this lovely thing, Fry's verse, then continued to enchant audiences and lure them towards believing that verse drama was a viable thing, which many people have claimed it is not, as people claim something they've always claimed, that opera is too ridiculous to take seriously because wonderful coloratura sopranos singing as they die, singing magnificent arias, is too stupid to take seriously, much less to be moved by. And yet we find that the beauty of the music conveys something so far beyond the pathos of the situation in which the singer finds herself or himself. I think of the tenor in Tosca singing about his impending death and singing "E non ho mai più amato la vita." I've never loved life more than I do now. He sings on the verge of death. This accusation against opera has continued without terminating opera, thank goodness. Similarly, the similar accusation of the absurdity of people speaking in meter has also not succeeded in wiping out verse drama, which keeps raising its delightful head in the face of what we think of as realism. There's nothing realistic. There is no realism, truthfully, in art. Only a pretense of realism, cloaked in whatever style and whatever magic, whatever form of compression the artist chooses, and it can be a form that pretends to be naturalistic, even though, of course, it isn't. So verse drama made an abrupt return in the years following the Second World War, in the hands of T.S. Eliot and Fry and a few others. And it exists still today. Anyone watching this with an interest in verse drama as such, please go to the plays of a contemporary verse dramatist, Glyn Maxwell, an absolutely wonderful writer, a wonderful dramatist, a wonderful poet, and another person like Fry, who was able to compose delightfully speakable verse. I have in front of me, right next to my phone, a page opened at random of The Lady's Not for Burning, where Thomas says to us, or says to Janet, his beloved, "Nothing can be seen in the thistledown, but the rough-head thistle comes. Rest in that riddle. I can pass to you generations of roses in this wrinkled berry. There, now, you hold in your hand a race of summer gardens. It lies under centuries of petals. What is not, you have in your palm. Rest in the riddle, rest. Why not? This evening is a ridiculous wisp of down, blowing in the air as disconsolately as dust. And you have your own damnable mystery too, which at this moment I could well do without." So, as poetic as his choice of language, his choice of words, and his meditation, which is as poetic as the language, as poetic as they are, you escape as the audience without having to hear the drumming of iambic verse. You just float in the majestic sweetness of Fry's poetry, and you will find the same thing in Glyn Maxwell, so please resort to him. He has found a way to elevate the significance of what he writes and penetrate the mind's resistance to the soul of the matter by using verse. And he just happens to be that kind of a poet who can be as rich and subtle as you please and still seem quietly familiar and undemanding. So Fry went on to write many plays with titles that have something of the charm of The Lady's Not for Burning. And I remember attending his last play, I think it was his last play, certainly his last major play, called A Yard of Sun, a typical punning Fry title, a play written about the Palio in Venice, about the race, a wonderful play. And like A Sleep of Prisoners, another of his plays, you're already enchanted, I think, by the title. Another play of his, Venus Observed, was the first one I saw of his when I was a child, 4 or 5 years old. Sir Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh, his celebrated wife, opened in this play on Broadway. And when they moved on to another project, my own parents, Rex Harrison and Lily Palmer, took over those two roles. So I saw my parents in Venus Observed. The first people I saw speaking Fry's verse on stage were my own parents, which was a great gift, very special, an unusual gift to me. So please, by all means, go to Fry. Go and see a Fry play. You'll be captivated by it. Go and find Glyn Maxwell's works if you think you might be interested in the possibilities of verse drama, and include them in your reading of dramatic literature, please. They are wonderful and enduring examples, and they bring to us the meaning of verse in their own way. Remember, if you will, that playwrights were called poets before they were called playwrights. So have a nice, safe weekend, please. Bye now.